Welcome to episode 5 of Art for Profit's Sake. I'm going to start off this episode by issuing a correction from the previous episode where I accidentally called Madness Heart Press under the name Madness Heart Publishing. I apologize for getting that mistaken, but for the rest of the episode I do correctly refer to John's company as Madness Heart Press. In this episode, we are going to talk to Ellen Chastain, who runs Art Crawl Florida, as well as works with the education department at the Polk County Art Museum. Now, Ellen puts on the premier art event from my side of the aisle, I guess, as a vendor, as an artist. It's really great to see events that happen annually that I get excited about. A lot of times as a vendor, you're going to start off, I guess a good rule of thumb is to start off at vending at whatever you can. The more events you get to, the more you'll start to recognize where your tribe is, where customers will come and see things that they like. You'll learn what's working for you, what's not working for you. I have reached a place with my business where I am almost always incredibly excited about the amount of money I bring home. And that was not the case for the first few years as a vendor. Starting off early on, I would do events that made $0, $50, still paying $75 to show up and do nothing but just stare at the other vendors for 5 hours. Not fun, but doing those always become a learning experience and help you realize what to look out for with the events that you do like. At this point, after I've been vending for 5-6 years now, probably about that, 5 or 6 years, I now am way more judicious and I have a much better understanding on what's going to work for me specifically. So if you're looking to start off and start out as a vendor, don't be afraid to fail. You're going to have a lot of failure, but over time, you're going to figure out little tiny things that make you more efficient, make things easier for you, make the events more fun, and definitely more than anything, make the events more profitable. And those are some of the exciting things that we bring up in this episode with Ellen. So thank you so much for listening to this intro. And now let's move on to our interview with Ellen Chastain. Today I am joined by the amazing Ellen Chastain, who is the organizer behind Art Crawl in Lakeland, Florida, which you can find out more about at artcrawlfl.com. She also works with the Polk Museum of Art. And I met Ellen through her husband, Chad, who came up to me at an event I was vending at, the Etsy Craft Fair, back in the before times of the pandemic. He talked to me about the disc golf discs I had, told me he was organizing a punk rock flea market, and that's how I got involved in the Chastain clan. So, Ellen, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast with me. It's amazing all the things you've put on, and it's amazing all the knowledge you bring into the art field. So you're a real asset to have in the podcast. So thank you.
Well, thank you. No, appreciate it. I remember actually meeting you. The first time I met you or talked to you was with your printmaking. I think we got one of your dogs, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
It's
that's
a long
right.
time ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
So Ellen organizes, as I mentioned, the Art Crawl, and I just have to say it is the premier art event for me specifically, but also like I feel like my genre of art, which is not Florida, but
Correct.
it's you could probably describe
I'm
it better
actually
than
so
me.
glad that you mentioned not Florida, because if you're in Florida, most of the festivals that you go to here seems to be a lot of Florida art, which is like landscapes and beautiful sunsets and swans and birds and whatever, which is all great and has its spot. But with Art Crawl, we are definitely desiring to pull out those artists such as yourself that have something more to offer, and probably a little more genuine. I hate to say it that way, but a little more genuine from your heart versus just something to look cute and pretty, which again, there's a place for that, but that's not what we're looking for.
to add to that, I know specifically, like, if when I first started vending, I looked up art events to vend at. And what you usually find are events that are, it's kind of hard to describe, but what they'll have in common is $300 to apply.
Mhm.
You're going to be juried to see if you even get in. You don't really know who's judging your work, and they're more than likely not going to be interested in the stuff that I make. It's going to be at a beautiful venue on a beach somewhere, and the people who are going to be buying art are probably all retired. So every step of that did not work
Yes.
for me, but
Right.
your art crawl definitely does.
Well, and this kind of plays in. I'll tell you this story, the background by it, about it. So I work at my daytime job as Polk Museum of Art. It's my career, of course, and we have Mayfair by the Lake, which is one of the top art festivals in the states. So we have, over 175 artists that come through nationwide. But the one thing that we kept noticing is that those festivals don't get our local artists in. And like you said, it's the same thing. It's beautiful. It's on a lake. It looks awesome. But sometimes it's not affordable for even just an artist to get in, especially those that are brand new. So, what we tried to do, actually, Art Crawl started at the Polk Museum of Art. So I started as a program, and it grew to the point that we got to the point where we couldn't do they didn't wanna do Mayfair and Art Crawl, kind of like counterintuitive, right? It came to a point where some of our programming got cut, and Art Crawl was one of them. Was a little unfortunate, but our community came around and said, "Hey, we still really wanna do this. Can we do this outside of the museum? Is this something that we can do?" And so went to my director and she goes, "Absolutely, go for it. We would love to see that. Why don't you file as your own nonprofit?" So that's what we did. We looked into it. I got a board put together that was very supportive of art education. I work in art education. So just generalized as an educator, we want to support and bring those up that people don't see. And so we got behind it. And now this is actually our 10th year.
Wow.
Um, yeah, 10th year, ninth year of actually having a festival. COVID, of course, was in there, but we had the festival or the event at the museum for 3 years, and now we're out 7 years now.
Yeah, I think I've attended it twice or three times. Can't remember
I feel
exactly.
like three
Yeah.
because we started out in a parking lot, and then you joined us when we had it as a nonprofit, our own nonprofit, and it was in Munn Park.
Okay. Yeah. So
Hmm.
I know I've been in Munn Park at least twice, probably
Yeah,
just twice.
it might be
And now we're
twice.
moving over to the Swan Brewing.
Correct.
Well, why don't you tell me a bit about like the shift in locations, what kind of changed, why you changed, kind of the history of that.
So mentioning my husband, Chad. So he does the punk rock flea market, which you're also a part of, which is fantastic. I see that you had the shirt on.
Yeah.
Um, we noticed, so financially, I have to raise all the money for Art Crawl. So it's just myself and my team, which is just my board. It's like four of us. It's not that many. And so therefore, if I don't like a fundraise well enough, then we can end up in the red, right? The Munn Park, we love working with the city, but it's expensive, like to rent Munn Park. So renting the park, we have to pay for personnel, we have to pay for the roads to be blocked, all that stuff. With Chad doing the punk rock flea market, Dan, one of the owners at Swan Brewing, has been generous in helping us get punk rock flea market you know, off the floor. So with this last one, I told Chad, I said, if we can get 70 vendors at Swan Brewing, because when we first started, it was only on Swan Brewing's property. Now it's expanded to the street and in front of, get you guessed it, a lake. Um, but I told him I was like, if we can get 70 booths there, I can move it to move our crawl there. That's all I need. And a lot of our patrons or people that come to Art Crawl have been asking for years for like alcohol just want alcohol to like hang out, chill, look at artwork, watch performances, music, whatever. And frankly, I didn't have enough money. I couldn't afford the liquor license. I can't afford any of the police. I couldn't afford that. So joining with Dan makes it all possible. So or Swan Brewing makes it all possible. So we're going to make the jump this year. Additionally, since COVID happened, the farmers market for Lakeland coincides with Art Crawl because we share a similar vicinity with Mum Park. And used to, we didn't share that vicinity, and now it does. And so I don't want my artists to compete with farmers market vendors. I don't think it's fair. So one of the reasons that we made Art Crawl anyway is so that our artists weren't contending with crafters like making soaps and odd things, because you have a lot of makers markets, but not a lot of art specific festivals or markets. So anyway, another reason we move over to Swan Brewing, we're like, we don't have any competition over there for our vendors or for our artists. So we're trying. We're trying to new stuff.
So I could say from the vendor side, the fact that there's going to be alcohol in there is going to
Yep.
definitely increase sales.
Yes. Yeah. Right. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't have gallery shows. You don't have openings without wine, right?
right.
So
Yeah.
this only makes sense. I agree.
And I also feel like with that location, people are probably going to be able to park closer to the event
Yes, I will.
than at Munn Park, where
Yep.
like the local street parking can pack up very quickly,
Yes.
even without an event.
Yes.
So that means people are more likely to buy something, take it to their car, and go
And
back
come
and keep
back.
drinking.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
How many vendors have you had at the Munn Park location? Was it always 70? Sorry, artists. I should be saying artists.
Well, I say vendors too, and I don't have vendors. It is artists, but we do have artists and art organizations and supporters, of course, like sponsors. In Mun Park, we've had as many as 92. So that's
Wow.
92 booths. That was really large. And it was probably a little too large for us. We didn't feel like the artists didn't have as many sales because I think they were competing against each other, which is it's going to happen, of course, but we just had a lot going on, and it was great. It was great as a program or an event for patrons, but for artists, they felt, I think, a little lost. So we're going back down to 70. Last year was around 74, so that's just kind of like our sweet number. It seems like so 70 was our goal, and then of course we have Art Wars, which is a new program. So there's two sides. Sorry.
Mhm.
There's two sides of Art Crawl as far as of artist goes. You can apply, same thing. We do still have the application processing. So you apply, you're juried into the show, or you can participate in Art Wars, which is a live art competition. And we created that for those artists that may not have enough artwork to fill a booth, or maybe that's not their goal, right? As artists, we all have different goals. So we did Art Wars, and they have 5 hours to use surprise materials on a 3 by 6 foot panel, and then they're judged, and then they win awards, right? So super fun. It's super fun for patrons to watch, and then it's awesome to get additional artists involved, and that's our whole goal is to get artists involved, tie in that community together as much as possible.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's fun.
So, are the panels going to be sold to, or I guess available for sale if the artist wants it to be?
Yes. So we have a sponsor, Register Construction, and they provide the panels for us and the stands for them. So they set it all up for us. And then part of the whole benefit is when the artist is done with it, they can sell it or they can take it home. The artwork remains theirs. We
Mhm.
don't keep it or anything of that sort. So whatever they make at Art Crawl through Art Wars is theirs to keep. They just need a big truck.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a good
the
sized panel.
the first year we had so many people going, I can't fit this in my little car. I'm like, I told you you needed a truck to come get it. So, but it's super fun. And we've
So
grown that too.
That's very exciting. The
Yeah,
last 2 times I've done I mean, the times I have done art crawl, it's just been me at the booth, so I haven't been
yeah.
able to really
Walk around.
see what's going on around there, but I hear all the screaming and yelling and the fun people are having, and every
Yeah,
now and then I can kinda, like, peek around the corner from my tent and see what's going
yeah,
on, and
yeah, yeah.
from
Super
Munn
fun.
Park, it definitely feels like a larger footprint
Yes, it
than
is.
Swan Brewing,
Right.
but Swan Brewing provides a higher energy, I feel like.
Correct. And that's another thing. When we here, let me be a little honest with you. What has happened with Punk Rock Flea Market, as far as the energy and the vibe, is what I wanted Art Crawl to be originally. But through our growth, and of course, we didn't have the. It really depends on our partnerships, right? Like, so who we have, our partnerships, and like I said, the last couple of years or several years, we've had a partnership with the city of Lakeland, which we love. And Mem Park's beautiful, provides
It is.
shade, which is awesome. But again, we're looking for that next step in that vibe of people hanging out and actually being involved. So, with the punk rock flea market, that has definitely been a part of that culture. Now, granted, that's a very niche culture, just a little wider, but I think it's still going to provide the same energy or similar energy, considering that, again, there's booze or brews. I don't want to say booze, brews. There's brewing, brews. And then we'll bring the food trucks back. So we used to have food trucks years ago. We're bringing the food trucks back. And then, of course, we will have the entire street, if not a little bit more, for Art Crawl, just so that we can get those numbers in that we need for inclusion.
Well, a small difference that makes a huge difference too is that at Swan Brewing, pretty much all the tents will be facing each other, right?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. And it makes for so much better walking. So I
Yes.
don't know if you noticed with Mun Park, it's a circle with an X in it, essentially. That
Yes.
is
Yeah.
hard to maneuver. If you're trying to see all the artists, it is hard to maneuver.
Mhm.
Um, so with Swan Brewing, you literally can enter one side, go all the way down, and come back and around, and you're going to be able to see all the artists fairly. Like, you're not going to miss anybody, which is what we also want to do. So much easier to walk.
Yeah, I mean, it's small things like that that makes an event great.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
I mean, one thing that always makes the events that you and Chad organize really stand out is your kids walking around with a wagon giving out snacks and water and
Yes.
bananas. Like
Yes.
no other event provides things like that. You
We
guys are the
all love
best.
our snacks. Who doesn't like a snack, right? We're really shocked, actually. So with, and this goes back to Mayfair. At Mayfair, we give out snacks. That was just part of our hospitality for artists. So I thought it was a general, like, duh, this is hospitality. We want to make sure that our artists are well, at least got some type of energy in them, right? In case they can't get away from the booth. And so when we started doing art crawl, it was natural to do snacks, and then punk rock flea market, snacks, snack time. I mean, it's just, you should do snack time for your artists. It makes everyone smile, right? Who
Yeah.
doesn't like a snack?
Yeah, it's great too because, like, I mean, if I'm there like setting up, I'm like going 100 miles an hour. I'm still on the
Yep.
caffeine. But then when someone says, "Hey, would you like a snack?" It makes me like take a little break so
Yes.
that I'm not exhausted when I am done setting up. So just like emotionally, it
Yeah.
also just makes me feel appreciated to be there. So
Right.
it's a small thing, but it's amazing.
Well, we appreciate you guys being there because we can't do what we do without you guys. So it doesn't really work, right? So we appreciate you guys being there. We want to make sure that you guys are feel that as well.
So talking about the evolution of the event, is there anything that you used to do at Art Crawl that you have stopped doing?
I have stopped and started. Like the food trucks, we stopped for a while because food trucks are hard to deal with sometimes.
Okay.
Um, let's see. I don't think so.
Well, you have a lot of like maybe accoutrements isn't the right word, but like a lot of side things going on, like with judging and voting.
We
Has that
do.
changed at all over time?
So not necessarily. But but I am thinking of changing it up a bit because the application process is a little rough, I think, for any festivals, a lot of festivals are big festivals, the ones that you're talking about, Florida Art, right? They do an application on what's called Zapplication. It's a just it shoots it all over the nation, and that's what most artists, festival going artists, use to find their festivals. However, like you mentioned, it's you have to apply, and then there's when you're accepted, or if you're accepted, there's a large fee to participate. And something that I think about in these is that, when we go through the judging process, we're going through to curate a show, right? So curating just like a museum would for an exhibition. However, when you're dealing with something like art crawl, I'm looking for a very specific type of artist. So though we may have a few like landscape people or what we would consider Florida artists just by subject matter, that's not really like our goal is to push like include them too. Like I'm not saying exclusion, but we're not trying to be say Mayfair, right? We're not
Right.
trying to be that festival that's on the beach. We want to bring artists that people are not seeing as much or not being exposed to, I guess, because art also, I'm an advocate for the arts, so I don't want all the arts to look the same, and they shouldn't be. I'm a very big advocate for, showcasing your voice and being who you are versus something that just sells, right? So, in addition to that, so we're looking for those type of artists, right? So, I might change our judging process to more of a curation invitational. They'll
Mm,
still be open to applying because I don't know everybody, obviously, right? We don't
right.
know all the artists here. So the only way I can get those contacts is for people to apply or to contact me directly. But artists like yourself, I know that you fit, right? So why not just go ahead and invite you and get you in? That type of idea. We would still do the same processing for application, but I think we could add an invitational.
I think the fact that it's an annual event definitely helps with that too. Like,
Yes,
for example, when Chad runs the punk rock flea market, he alternates who is attending the event as a vendor
correct. Yes, he
because it
has
happens a
to.
lot more regularly than once per year.
Right, and for our community, you don't wanna do the same people over and
Mhm.
over for that specifically, but yes, yeah. So, if I can curate art crawl just like he curates punk rock flea market or how we curate an exhibition on the wall, even more the mission is being met, right? So,
How many applicants would you say you get every year for it?
it ranges only between 80 and 100, so it's not a
Oh, so
lot.
okay, so
Yeah, so it's
it's
not
not
a
too
whole lot.
heartbreaking
No, it's
when
not.
good.
I mean, it is and it's not. But I do have to say, and you've never been on this end of it, but we do offer feedback, and that's something that's very different also from other festivals. Someone might apply 2 years in a row and still not make it, and they're like, "What is going on? Why am I not making it in?" So we do give feedback and constructional feedback, and there may be an artist that has applied and I want to see more artwork. Sometimes an artist will apply with three different mediums, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for consistency, and new artists specifically don't really understand that. So I might tap into some of those artists and go, "Hey, I see that you're really talented in this. Is this really what your focus is? Or like, what is your focus? I would like to know what your focus is." Or we're not looking for, you know, trinkets and, you know, I don't know, small things. I don't know. And they
Sure.
may have huge pieces. I'll use ceramics as an example. Ceramics is one of those things. Oh, cute, a bowl or a cup. Well, what's special about that? What makes you different from the next ceramist? I don't know. I don't see anything, but I can ask, and they go, "Oh, I didn't even know I could actually sell that," or "I didn't know that you would be interested in that weird thing."
Mhm.
No, I want your weird things. That's what I want. I want to see you. I don't want to see what you think will sell. You know?
And yeah, and to the listeners too who are maybe looking to do markets for the first time,
Mhm.
um, while this may not like speak to you as an artist, but as someone who is walking through a set of booths looking to buy something, the potential customers want to be able to understand what you are within a 30-second glance around your booth.
Absolutely.
So again, it similarly, if you're applying with tons of different things that
Mhm.
don't really have any thematic connection to them, even if you did get into the event, it wouldn't translate to a lot of great sales, because people are just going to be confused and they'd rather, have someone holding their hand as they understand what they're looking at. And I've I've
Absolutely.
I've been at a lot of events where someone specifically says to me, "What am I looking at?"
Right.
And it's a hard thing to hear, but it's a harder thing to answer. So,
Right. You're like,
yeah.
"Ah!" Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is like, buyers are also looking for a story. What's
Right.
your connection? What am I Oh, because if someone puts something on the wall and then someone comes in and goes, "Whoa, what's that?" They're gonna go, "Oh, I met this artist and da 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 da. He does this, blah 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 blah. This is from what." You tell about it. That's what in the museum. That's what we do in tours and interpretation, gallery interpretation. We're always telling the story right behind the artwork. So that's another thing. With art crawl, we do ask for. I don't ask for an artist statement because I don't necessarily care where you went to school, or because that tends to be what that's more like a bio, but a lot of
Mhm.
people misunderstand the statements. But I literally put on there, please describe your artwork. And then in parentheses, it's your voice. Like, I want to know what you're trying to purvey. Like, do you have a mission? Are you an advocate for something? What's your voice? Who are you speaking to? Because those that you're speaking to will be the ones that want to collect your work too. So, or share.
So, personally, I have like an artist statement, an artist bio, all as different Google Docs. I think I have like a 250 word one, a 500 word one, and a 1,000 word one. And then I just
Yes.
update those every year. And
Yeah,
then I also keep them on the About Me section of my website. Because
absolutely.
anytime
And
you're
that's where they
applying for
go.
stuff, yeah.
Yes. And that's where they go. That's where they belong. But
Yeah.
when I'm
And
a Yeah, when you're applying for Art Crawl, I'll speak for Art Crawl itself. I don't want your bio.
sure.
I don't want your bio. I just want to know what about your artwork. If you can't tell me about your artwork, I'll tell you this. So, a couple of years ago, one of our judges, he acknowledged several artists that he thought were exemplary or were like good honorable mentions. So we don't have honorable mention awards in art crawl. So during the festival, not only are you a part of festival, but you're up for awards. You're competing, but the judge wanted to say, "Hey, I just want to let you know these artists, you should have merit awards." So that is something else that we need to add. But he goes, "I want to explain to you why I want to give them merit, like explain how they're merited, but I also want to explain why they didn't win anything." And this one in particular, he said, "I went up to the artist and asked them, 'Hey, can you tell me a bit about your artwork?' It's all consistent, visually consistent, but they couldn't tell him anything about it. It was just like, it was just kind of aesthetic is fine. Like, you know, we're okay with aesthetic, and you can say aesthetic. I just think it's cool looking. I love this medium, whatever." But the artist literally couldn't say anything. He's like, he couldn't explain to me why he created them. And the work is fantastic visually, but it stopped them. So on a competition perspective of these festivals, those artist statements and those abouts, like the art descriptions, are just as important if you're competing. Again, this is one of those things that at an art festival, you have artists that are purely there to sell. Then you have artists there that are purely there to network. And then you have artists there purely to compete. So those competitors in those large festivals are usually those that have, $10,000, $15,000 pieces. Because like with Mayfair that's connected to the museum, there may be purchase awards, which means that we would purchase a piece from an artist and put it in our collection. So those are the ones that are competing as well. But all that to say, there's a reason that we ask for the about your artwork, so that we know that you actually are just not throwing together a kit. Now, for an example, and this would be the bane of my existence, but the paint pouring. It's like, oh, how cute. That's a craft. Like, that's how I feel. Paint pouring is a craft.
Mhm.
Now, you take that paint pouring and you add to it, sure. Now you've put your own spin on it. But if you're giving me paint pouring, I just I don't want to go there.
So my wife and I always kind of like joke when we're at an event and we count how many
Paint pouring.
paint pouring artists are at the event.
I hate to say it, but it's like I don't hate them. I feel like saying that, but I don't hate them. There are several artists actually locally that do paint pouring, but they do so much more with it.
Mhm,
And when you're like, if I have 10 people that apply with paint pouring, I'm only going to pick one, if that.
mhm.
So what makes yours different, right? And again, it's just, oh my gosh, you have to do more.
So based on your judging process and deciding
Mhm.
who comes into the events, do you kind of like categorize artists by medium or like organize to try and make sure you don't have a lot of duplicates? How does that look?
So no, it's just straight up. So with ours, again, we only have between 80 and 100 at a time. And if we don't have, I keep saying 70 booths, but 70 means that there's probably 12 to 15 of those as art organizations. So really only 50 to 60 artists get in. So that could be quite a few people that don't get in. So we have a panel of judges. So I don't do the judging. I view them and I can make my own opinions, but I know too many of the artists and it's just not fair sometimes because there can be biases. The judging process is literally we put all of the artwork up and then we go artist to artist to artist. So when I say that an artist has consistency, we will see it immediately. If they do not have consistency and they applied with ceramics, acrylic and whatever, it's almost an automatic no because it's too varied. So we look for artist voice, of course. We look for skill, quality. Of course, we're just looking at photos. So we can only go so much. And there has been times that we've allowed or an artist has gotten in that probably wouldn't have gotten in, but that's okay.
Mhm.
We're going by these photos that we can only, judge them by. But we don't categorize them. We just literally do a full overview of that artist and their statements.
So there's an event that I've attended a few times called the Art and or Coffee and Art Festival. I don't know if you've been to it.
No,
Uh,
I haven't.
It's
Uh,
over in, East Tampa. I'm a coffee fiend, so it's a delight.
yeah.
But one thing they have that I thought is really cool is they have, like, an event gallery where the artists who are there also have 1 or maybe 2 pieces that they set up so
Oh,
that everyone
nice.
can just, like, go to this one thing, and then, I guess if they don't have time to look at everything or if they just wanna see something in a more artsy, formal fashion, they can look at that one area and see individual pieces kind of compared to each other.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I need a gallery for that. Actually, that's another reason we have art crawl. We don't have galleries here. We'll do pop-ups here and there. Actually, leading into that, we have our partnership with the city of Lakeland. We do have exhibitions that are now we do it 3 times a year called Arts and Rec. So we do application based on that. I let the city does the judging on that one because it's going into their facilities. But the exhibitions turn out really cool. They have cool spaces for us to like put artwork in. They put QR codes in there so people can purchase them. So that is another avenue that we're trying to help artists locally with as well. So again, if it's an artist that doesn't have enough to fill up a booth, like for a festival, they can apply with 1 or 2 pieces that might make it into an exhibition. So yeah, I'm totally game on those gallery and exhibition shows. Those are fantastic.
Well, I think that's actually a good segue into what it is you do with the Polk Museum of Art. So, can you tell me about what things you do as an art educator and what type of services you have there for artists?
Yeah, absolutely. For artists, well, my biggest focus at the museum is studio art. So I hire and organize all of our art classes that we host at the museum. But I also do gallery engagement and interpretation. So tours, I do tours, I do tour training, that type of stuff. And then I'm one of the special events helpers as well. So if we have any special events, I'm one of the main people that do that. But we also have a student gallery. So I am work hand in hand with our school district here, the Polk County School District, and we have a student gallery that we host 8 exhibitions a year in, and that covers K through 12th grade. So there's a high school show, there is a K through 2 show, and then we also have an ESE show. Right now, we have our it's called Heart for Art, and it's our ESE exhibition. So those are students from K through 12 that applied, same thing. So you apply and then you get juried in. So out of 300 applications, or not applications, but 300 uploads. Well, it is applications, then we choose 60 to 80 pieces to put in the gallery. So that's something we do. I also do a lot of public programming. So any art stuff that I can bring in or artists that I can bring in, that's a good way for artists to actually learn other skills as well and also get connected to local artists or national artists. So I do what's called art labs, and that's when we bring in a local artist, usually one of the exhibitions, artist that has an exhibition at the museum. I bring them in for a hands-on workshop to tell about their art, and then again, learning in different ways is hands-on or audible.
Well, that's exciting. I know
Yeah.
I'm woefully uninformed about my local museum based art events. At least I could tell you in St. Pete, it's kind of exhausting to keep up with everything.
Yes. Yes,
There's
I
the
can
St.
imagine.
Pete Artists Association, there's Creative Pinellas,
Yep.
there's
Yep.
um, Tampa Bay Arts Initiatives, and there's
Mhm.
there's so many
You got
things.
the
But
Dali, the Fine Arts Museum, you've got the Imagine Museum, you've got all
yeah,
sorts of museums. Yeah, for sure.
and then
And
even
we're
great events happening at local libraries too. So,
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah,
yeah.
we're all about the public programming.
Yeah. But I mean,
Um,
it's the I've been to some incredibly amazing lectures and things at local museums. So
yes.
I
Yep.
just I need to spend more time reviewing those calendars and signing up for things. I've seen
Yeah, and a lot of
lectures
times
from Marina Abramovich. I've
Mhm.
been to a lecture about the history of the TV show Dark Shadows from a guy who wrote a bunch of books about the show, and it's just
Right,
so
right.
many exciting things.
Yep. It's an easy way to meet people, especially with touring artists, or because in a museum you have, or at least in ours, we have our permanent collection, but then we have touring exhibitions, and those touring exhibitions are a great opportunity to meet the artists, of course, if they're alive.
So, what are some of your favorite events you've organized?
One of I didn't organize it, but I was a part of it, and it was actually through the museum. Was called InnoSkate, and it was in 2014, I believe. And so the Polk Museum of Art is a Smithsonian affiliate, which means that we get tied in. We can bring any Smithsonian like exhibition our way or program, and I think it was 2013. Don't quote me on these dates. But 2013, I think, marked the first year of InnoSkate, which is a celebration of the innovation of skateboarding and skateboard
Oh,
culture. Yeah.
oh, that's cool.
And the Smithsonian in DC hosted the first event, which had Tony Hawk and all sorts of other like skating, you know.
Royalty.
Yes, exactly. So the second year, it happened to be that Team Payne had just installed a skate park here in Lakeland. So the Smithsonian decided that we would be the second location for InnoSkate, for hosting InnoSkate. So we had Rodney Mullen here, which is
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. But
He's
we
the best.
focused on the Florida, I know. We focused on the Florida-based skaters, and, we did an exhibition, like, of skateboards down our in one of our galleries. We did bands, we did a large skate. We had Professor Schmidt, which is, he does skateboard manufacturing for, like, Alien and all those, skateboard brands. So it's just culturally, it was, like, all us. Like, it was that was us, right? So when it started getting organized, I remember going, wait, 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 we're doing a skate event. Wait, I want involved. Like, I want to be involved. I want to do this. And so they put me on board and no pun intended. And and so we had a great time. It was 2 days. We had lectures from people that kind of went over the history of skateboarding. We did a skateboard workshop, like skate design workshop with local teachers so that they could take it back to their classrooms. You know, it just spread all over the community. So it was definitely my favorite. We had music. We had a, you know, I don't know. It was just fun. It was so much fun. It was just the skate culture. And I think that was part of like the drive too for Chad to start doing the punk rock flea markets. So it was just a lot of fun. It was like right down our alley. So Skate was definitely awesome. I mean, we had skate spots in our parking lot. You know, people skateboarding all over the place. I even took it. So we have what's called the Florida Arts or Florida Association of Museums here in the state of Florida, and they do like an annual conference, and they have a program during that conference called the what's it called? It's like show and tell. Oh, bring and brag. It's called bring and brag, and so I brought and bragged about our Skate event. So it was just an awesome day. It's an awesome day, awesome weekend. It's just great.
That sounds like a
It
lot
was
of fun.
it was a lot of fun. It was awesome.
So I'm sure even people who are not anywhere near Polk County probably have some similar amazing museums that they're not
Mhm.
too aware of what's going on in them. So, what are some of the events or ways at the Polk Museum of Art that artists can be involved?
The biggest way for us is through our classes. So we run classes for teens and adults. So we have classes that run in the summer, spring, and fall. And those that want to just either be around people with like interest or brush up on some skills, the classes are fantastic for those, meetups and getting to meet people. Our teachers are great and they will share a lot of knowledge and resources. They're fun to be around. That's one of the big things. I mentioned this with the museum and art crawl. I don't ever hire or work with, or at least I try not to, jerky people. So it's always a fun time. Everyone's really sweet, supportive, endearing. We don't have that stuffiness, or at least we try not to do that. Every so often, we might have a person here or there, but they don't last very long.
What do those classes look like? I mean, do they have to, are the students paying per class or per season?
So it's a session. So it's medium. It's usually medium based. All of our classes are medium based. So maybe it's an oil painting class. You would meet for 6 weeks, 1 day a week, for 3 hours a night. So they're usually like night classes. They're very similar to, say, college, except
Sure.
for the fact that you're only 6 weeks and you're not being graded. So yeah, and we do 6 weeks in the summer, spring, and fall. We offer more if we could, but we also in between have children programs. So like right now, we're in the depth of summer art camp. So we have around 80 students a day going through 12 different classes a day. So
And those are all on site at the museum?
those are all on site. Yep. And same thing, they're medium based. So they're not arts and craft time. They're actually skill timed. So
Oh, that's
the
great.
kids are coming out. Yeah, the kids are coming out with a skill, or just a different perspective. That's also something, again, goes back to that finding your voice. We want children to be able to create and then observe and respond to themselves and to others. So that's what our classes are all about at the museum. And I'll tell you, I've been at the museum now for 20 years, and that's given me time to see my little camp kids go to go to middle school, and then they come back as volunteers, and then they we help them and mentor them into local art schools. So we have here locally in Polk County, we have a art school called Harrison School for the Arts, and so we help them create their portfolio. It's an application based program in school too. So we help them do that, and then they go into Harrison or whatever school they're in, and then they may go off to college and they come back as interns, and then I've seen the full cycle now. And actually, a lot of our interns end up are the ones that are getting hired by us. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
I could say I went to an art high school, and it definitely helped shape who I was, who
yeah,
I am as an
yeah,
adult.
yep.
Way more than I think my art degree in college did.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why a lot of kids get out of Harrison and then they go to college and they're like, I already knew this stuff. What am I doing? Da, 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 kind of thing. So, but great school, great community. And that's what we're all about, just creating that community.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to cover? I think we kind of got it all there.
We do. I do want to say that Art
Yeah.
Crawl's call for artists is open right now. We're
Okay. So, what is
open.
the deadline on that, and what do the artists need to apply?
The deadline is August 20th. And all they need to do is go to artcrawlfl.com, and it's right there on the front page. You just click through and read the description. Make sure you read the rules though first. There's some guidelines in there that will help kind of alleviate some questions and better equip you to applying as well. So read the rules and regulations and then apply.
I also want to say that if you want to see like photos of earlier events, the hashtag is ArtCrawlFL. Also, so you'll find those on Instagram, Facebook. I'm sure you'll find photos that I took at ArtCrawl
Yeah.
somewhere in the past. Also, polkmuseumofart.org and hashtag Polk Museum.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ellen. It was wonderful chatting with you. I'm sure we'll probably check in again after the event ends, give a little rundown
Yes.
on what's changed
What
and
worked
what
and
you
didn't
learned from it.
work.
Yeah, those are always fun. A little
Yes.
debrief.
Yes, debriefs are always good. Always
All right.
growing.
All right. Thanks again, Ellen.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you having
Thank
me.
you. Art for Profit's Sake is recorded through Riverside FM, edited on Adobe Audition, and distributed through Spotify for podcasters. The music is provided by Old Romans. If you found anything helpful, interesting, or useful in this podcast, please rate and review us 5 stars. If you want to learn more about chain assembly, head on over to chainassembly.com.